Hello. Thank you for being here with us and for resisting to this hour. But I'm pretty sure that the traffic is horrible outside, so I think that is a good idea. Today's topic is enterprise security architecture. It's kind of a big topic for end of the day, but we'll try to make it a bit more simple. I'll first start by presenting myself and my colleague here on stage with me. So I'm Elena Gabar. I'm an enterprise security architect. I am currently working at DB Technology. I have a background of almost 10 years in cybersecurity. I started as a project manager. I then delivered different types of audits, and also I spent some time in cyber insurance and cyber risk management. And my colleague is also an enterprise security architect. We are colleagues at the big global technology. She has some previous experience in security operations centers, incident response, vulnerability management, and programming. And we thought a bit about what was, as I said, I had almost 10 years of experience in cybersecurity, and DefCamp has this is like the 14th edition, so I tried to rememorize how it was back then. And cybersecurity was pretty simple, I think. So it was all about pen test. It was all about hackers, all about the white and black hat. And then everything evolves. And we've survived a pandemic, and that was I think that was a really interesting point for cybersecurity, because we needed to move all the infrastructure overnight, and then we needed to ask ourselves, how safe are we? And at that moment, I remember that I've heard the first discussion around bringing cybersecurity professional to the C-level table and trying to train C-level members into understanding the technical possibilities and the technical constraints. And basically, enterprise security architecture is about helping technical and C-level people have a common language, a common understanding, starting with the enterprise goals and continuing down to the solutions that are available and the way to implement the solution. So basically, enterprise security architecture must meet a certain set of requirements that is unique to your business or to your client, and that can always change. So enterprise security architecture must be flexible to change, able to incorporate business choices and policies, standard practices, and legislation changes. And in a nutshell, a good architecture will deliver a roadmap joining together all business requirements for current and future state. And this is very important because it's not, enterprise security architecture is not something static. You can have, I have in here a picture with a house. You can have, imagine this house as being your cybersecurity program. You can have a well-defined cybersecurity program that you will need to mature and improve. So you can use enterprise security architecture for that. You can have built different areas of cybersecurity, and you'll need to integrate them. And also for this type of situation, enterprise security architecture is a good idea. Or you don't have nothing and you have to build from scratch, and this is a very good point to start. It will help you understand, starting with the business goals. It will help you understand exactly what you need to build in order to be sure that you will fulfill that business goals and objectives. Now I would like to discuss some of the benefits of enterprise security architecture, some example of real-life application, and I must confess that on the next slide will be the challenges. So it's not everything good and easy, but we'll start with the good part. So you'll have in the example of real life application of enterprise security architecture, the first one will be, as I mentioned before, translating business objectives, and that will help you have a clear vision and strategy, and will help you that all the decision will drive in the towards the agreed goal. Another element will be business alignment and long-term strategy. So you'll have way to avoid short-sighted decision and for falling prey to different hype cycles, and you'll have basically the way to motivate why certain decisions are not a good idea on medium or long term. Another aspect that is very important to C-level mainly, but also for us, because it's also an important area, is the compliance and audit. So this integrating enterprise security architecture within your organization will help demonstrate compliance to regulators and external auditors. Basically, the external auditors and regulators always are looking for proof, for evidence. And having everything well documented, having clear processes, procedures will help you deliver what they are requesting, and you can focus on what is important for you. Traceability is another very important aspect and can serve you in a lot of situations. So you can provide a clear vision of expansion and value return, and you can have, by using enterprise security architecture, you can have a simplified investment process. And we are now at the end of budgeting for the future, and this is really important to be able to say how exactly you will use the money that you are requesting, not just because, well, we need it. This is what the vendor is requiring. This is the amount we needed. So you'll be able to better explain in the investment process. Measurement and metrics, this relate to everything that we do. And it's very important to have the ability to create metrics that matter, and also to have the potential to improve the metrics and the maturity of your cybersecurity capabilities. And another aspect, another benefit will be helping creating a problem-solving mindset. So basically, you will have a clear view of everything that you need to achieve, everything that you have now, and what you need to do, what are the next steps. What are the next steps for medium and long term, because enterprise security architecture is not really about short term. Yes, there are a lot of things that you can accomplish on short term, but in order to have a mature program, in order to have mature processes, you will need a long-term strategy, and also it's like really crucial to have the senior management buy-in. You need them throughout the entire process, and you need their approval. And we got to the challenges. So basically, one of the most important challenges, and it's not really specific to enterprise security architecture, is the lack of communication and collaboration. I previously said that enterprise security architecture will help you better communicate with C-level management, but it won't happen overnight. So this is one challenge that you need to consider. Resistant to change. This is specific to everything. Insufficient understanding of security needs. And this is something that everybody can work on. Complexity of IT environment. Yes, you can build an enterprise security architecture with what you currently have, but you need to consider, in order to move to a different setup, the complexity of that environment. Difficulty measuring return on investment. A lot of times cybersecurity is seen like a cost, and these specific calculations are always really challenging. Budget constraint is part of what I've mentioned previously. Compliance and regulatory changes, because yes, every time that you have a creating a proof and almost implemented program, there is something new that appears, and you need to understand what needs to be changed, and you have the feeling that you are CCIF and you are starting all over again. And the skill shortage that is still current in cybersecurity, was 10 years ago and is still current. And on the skills that you'll need, I want to provide a bit of overview on the different types of architects that you could have in an enterprise. And we'll start, this is a layer approach, because all of the existing frameworks that Diana will mention later have basically a layered approach. And you'll see here on the first layer, you'll have the business and you'll have the business architect. And when you're asking what exactly a business architect does, you can think of business capabilities, gap between capabilities and strategy, roadmaps, and future capabilities for future capabilities. Then you'll have the Chief Security Office, where you can find the enterprise security architecture. Basically, you'll find there me and Diana in this example, and enterprise architect. In here, what they are doing is the foundational security principles, platform models, and standards to be used by the entire organization. On the next level, you'll have the security architect, the system architect, and the data architect. Their org is again a bit difficult. It's around, on security architect, is around principles, controls, policies, procedures, and standards to address information security. As a system architect, their work involves components, interactions, and resources. And on the data architect, it's all about data models, structures, and data interrogations. The technology architect that you'll see on the physical layer is about technology infrastructure, including network and computing hardware and facilities. And the solution architect is about it's at the implementation level, as include system application, data, information security, and technology architecture. And here it's where you started from the first layer, where it's about the business goals and objectives, and you got to the last layer, or where it's all about the specific cybersecurity solution, the specific technologies, different type of vendors that are available. So this is basically the road or the steps that are including. And I will now let Diana to provide you a bit of overview on the existing frameworks for enterprise security architecture and a bit of more details on that.
Awesome, thanks. There are several frameworks for security architecture on the market, most notably SAPSA and TOGAF. The most important difference between them being that SAPSA is focused on security architecture, while TOGAF is focused on higher level enterprise architecture and covers different architecture domains like business, data application, and technology. SAPSA offers a more detailed methodology, while TOGAF offers less guidance. SAPSA helps develop a risk-driven enterprise security architecture supporting critical business processes, while TOGAF helps define business goals and aligns them with architecture objectives, focuses on reducing errors, staying within budget, and aligning IT with business units. SAPSA doesn't offer any specific controls, but it relies on industry standards like ISO and COBIT. You don't necessarily have to choose between the two. It's not like one of them is better than the other. You also have the opportunity to integrate both of them. And there's a white paper from Open Group that's free online, and it talks about integrating SAPSA and TOGAF. And of course, you also have the option to build your own architecture. This is the most customizable option. There are no prerequisites. There's plenty of opportunity to integrate current workflows, and you don't need to rebuild anything to match any specific standard. You will see that when you start learning about any of these frameworks, at least SAPSA takes a layered approach to cybersecurity, with the first layer being the contextual one, also called the business view. This includes things like branding, reputation, business goals. It also involves things that are outside the business that also affect the business, like the way the market is going at a certain point in time. Next up is the conceptual layer. This is where enterprise security architecture sits. It's also called the architect's view, and this is where we take the business goals from the contextual layer and transform them into visions and concepts. Next up is the logical layer, or the designer's view, and this is where engineers come into place. They take the architect's vision and concept and they turn it into a logical structure. Next up is the physical layer, or the builder's view. The builder is concerned with taking the logical structures and turning them into a technology model. Next is the component layer, or the tradesman's view. This is where usually the brand names come in. So for example, if the builder says, and this is an oversimplified example, if the builder says we need an operating system, then the tradesman will say, yeah, Windows might work for us. The management layer, it's listed as a separate layer, but in reality it's embedded in all of the other layers previously presented. And these 6 SAPSA layers also have correspondence in TOGAF and in the build your own approach, which the one here is just an example. Really, you have free reign over it. No matter what layer we are in, we need to be asking the right questions. And this is going back to the basics, to the what, why, how, who, where, and when. What? This is the assets, the goals, and the objectives that need to be protected and enhanced at a certain layer. Why signifies the risk and opportunity motivation. How? The process is required to achieve security at a certain layer. Who? Of course, the people and organizational aspects of security. Where? The locations where we are applying security, not necessarily geographical locations. And when? Any time-related aspects of security, like deadlines, SLAs, etc. What do we do in our daily jobs? These are some of our deliverables, starting with reference architectures. We build them. This includes functional or non-functional requirements for security capabilities. It also includes architectural diagrams. We also design and manage the capability model for the organization. We align tools to that capability model. We design and enforce processes to evaluate new technology. We set strategic goals, and we influence investment decisions. What is an attribute? Elena was telling you earlier that one of the benefits of an enterprise security architecture is traceability. And one technique that we can use to achieve traceability is what we call attributes profiling. Starting with what is an attribute. The definition is that it's a conceptual abstraction of a real business requirement. In real life, it's a word or a set of words that's very simple and easy to understand for everyone, making it a powerful executive communication tool. It's instinctive to everyone, as I said, from management to technical people. It's the key to traceability mappings, and it's considered the missing link between business requirements and technical or process design. Generally, an attribute is made up of 3 components, and each of these is highly customizable to your specific organization. Examples of categories, attribute categories, are business strategy, technical strategy, and risk management. Examples of names or the actual attributes are enabling time to market, migratable, or confidentiality. And the sample definition for a migratable system is a system that has a feasible, manageable migration path, taking into consideration user requirements. And how do we use attributes? How do we create an attribute profile? As I said, attributes are a way to provide two-way traceability between business requirements and solutions implemented. Let's say, for example, that your CEO put out a business requirement that he wants a leadership position in the marketplace for your organization. What we need to do is take small, credible abstraction steps. And the first small, credible abstraction step here would be taking that business requirement and transforming it into business drivers for security. What's a business driver for security? It's a simple sentence or phrase that demonstrates how cybersecurity can support this particular business requirement. And as an example here, we have maintaining the confidence of other key parties in their relationship with the organization. The second credible abstraction step is taking all the business drivers and decomposing them into attributes. And as examples here, we put reputable, available, authenticated, and encrypted. After you have this attributes profile, you can also go ahead and label tools with certain attributes. And that way you can, for example, demonstrate that a certain firewall has attributes that support a business driver for security that in turn supports a business requirement. And it's easier to get investment that way. We can also assign metrics and performance target for attributes. They can also be used in risk management frameworks. And I think that concludes our presentation. I hope if it's the first time you hear about enterprise security architecture, you learned something new and useful. And if it's not the first time, I hope we managed to shed some light on what we do. Thank you.
And please let us know if you have any questions.
Yes.
Hello and thank you. In the presentation, you mentioned the existence of multiple level architects. So my question is, do they have a separate deliverable as an artifact of reference architecture, or in the timeline they are consecutively enhanced considering the level of detail it goes into, from solution to data to security? Thank you.
Well, basically it depends on the specific enterprise. It's not mandatory to have all those type of architects in there within your cybersecurity program or within your cybersecurity capabilities. So it really depends on what is your exact structure. Some of those roles can be provided by someone else that is not a specific data architect. For example, some of them can also be more developed than what I've shown on the layer approach. This is basically just to show the complexity of different types of area where different types of requests and needs stand.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. A question I would have in regards to the maturity levels. What framework do you use, and maybe a bit of highlight on this area? Thank you.
Basically, in general, for cybersecurity, the most used framework is SAPSA, and both me and Diana are SAPSA certified architects foundational level. But as I said, it's not, and also Diana mentioned, it's not specific requirements. So the difference between TOGAF is that is more focused on cybersecurity. So SAPSA will be something that is more specific to integrate all the specific cybersecurity needs, but it can also be, TOGAF can also be used. Or build your own, what Dana also mentioned.
Thank you. So I actually have two questions. First, you mentioned that it's an option for someone to build his or her own framework. How often does that happen?
I've never seen it happen, but it's an option. You don't build your own framework, you build your own architecture, and you don't rely on any existing framework. I can't tell if it's a good idea or not.
Thank you. And the next question, I don't know much about enterprise security architecture, but in your experience, what has been the greatest challenge you faced so far?
Probably the availability of C-level managers to talk to us, really, because everyone wants to talk to them, and it's very challenging to get on their calendars. So, yeah, coordinating that.
Thank you.
Sure.